Well, hello, friends. Um, that probably worked. Welcome back to SerenityOS office hours. It is Friday. Hopefully, you can hear me and see me. Jeja coming through with the live report. That's nice. Thank you very much. All right. So it's working. Already, we have a bunch of people in the chat. Very, very nice. Paul, what's up? Sophia, just in time today. Jeja and Sam, of course. Pierre with the golden yak. Never not beautiful. Milan, what's up? And Lofty says that we can hear me. So that is great. Okay. Yes, it is Friday, and we are going to do what we always try to do on Fridays, which is talk about SerenityOS and the surrounding projects. I had my birthday yesterday and ended up eating way too much food, so I do feel slightly terrible today because of all the Indian food and cake and things like that. But we are going to power through the slight nausea and talk about stuff. So Leif with a question saying, "Hi Andreas, will you stream your first online Earl Grey purchase with the Ladybird browser?" That is a fantastic idea. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, let's try to do that. What's up, Fausto Tomasi? Thank you, Pierre. So I wonder actually what the state of that would even be at this point. Where would I buy something like that? I guess I can just buy it where I got it last time, which was this store. Let's see what happens if we try to open that. Ooh. We got a bitmap. Oh, I think this is fixed on master, actually. Although you can see here that I am currently on the Mooster branch, which is almost master, but Mooster. I'm just fixing some things. Let's see. I think that the particular crash that we just saw here, I think that's fixed on master. So just wanted to try that again. Thank you, everybody, for the birthday wishes. Really appreciate that. No, okay, maybe not fixed. Fine. My bad. Seems like we have some issues. And I mean, obviously, as we can see while the page is loading, there are various problems. So, but that's a really fun kind of challenge, like purchase tea with Ladybird. Looks like we got some JavaScript errors, like import scripts not defined, create contextual fragment missing. All right, these are things we can do. Okay, well, challenge accepted, I suppose. I need to be able to buy tea. Milan with the super chat. Thank you very much for that, saying, happy birthday, Uncle Andreas. How is Yacht going on? I saw some recent activity there from your side. Yeah, so I've been fixing a handful of things recently in Yacht. Most importantly, I added destructors, and then I was fixing like a handful of like random little issues. And oh wait, that's coming up on my second screen over here. I to be honest, I don't even remember what what I was last doing. Right, just fixing a random code generation issues, like it wasn't possible to check if a value is of a certain type if that type was imported from another module. And you couldn't assign a weak value to a variable that had that was of type weak value, and just like random bug fixing. So I was trying to, essentially I was just sitting here trying to write a bunch of Yacht a couple of days ago, and I kept hitting random problems and fixing those problems. And at some point I forgot about that and went back to fixing browser bugs. That's usually how things go for me. Like I work on something for a couple of days and then I just bounce to something else. but eventually come back around. The most exciting thing I think going on in Yacht right now is that Andrew and Ali have been working on this bindings generator called Yacht BindGen. And I don't actually know if that is on GitHub anywhere. If you guys are here, maybe you can fill me in. But basically, they're building a generator that uses Clang to parse our C++ headers and then sort of create Yacht headers for our C++ libraries so that you're able to call into our C++ code from Yacht, and you have like perfect function prototypes and stuff like that. So that is very exciting, and I don't know what's holding it up. I think it's coming pretty soon, and that's going to make a ton of Serenity libraries just accessible to Yacht, which in theory could open the gates for a lot of interesting programming. We'll see how it goes, but I'm hyped about it. Amrix with the Golden Yak says nearly 40k subs. Yes, it is creeping closer. I don't know where it is now. Let me check. Last I looked, it was like 38.7 something. 38.934. Wow. Okay, so coming up on 39,000 subscribers. And I don't know, I feel like somebody asked me to do something at like 100k, and I may have agreed to it, but I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it was a wife reveal or like a cooking stream or something. I may have said yes to at some point. If anybody remembers what that was, let me know. But of course, we are very far from 100k, and I've been thinking a bunch about that lately, about like YouTube audience building and how this channel is growing like steadily but pretty slowly, and I'm pretty happy with that. I like that the audience quality just kind of is so high, and people who watch my content are like technical people who understand what they're looking at, and there's not much like, I don't know, like low value commentary and people like shit posting in the comments and things like that. And when people do shit post in the comments, they are technical shit posts. So I really like that, and it's been really strange recently seeing some YouTubers that I've been watching for years, and they were putting out kind of like modest content similar to what I do, and then you see them suddenly start doing like very aggressive clickbait and kind of engagement farming, and their channels kind of balloon up, which I guess is what they want, but I would be way too scared to have a crappy audience to start doing things like that. I like it the way it's going, and who knows what happens in the future. Anyway, let's see. Jiayu says, "Hey friend, your haircut and mustache remind me of the great Ragnar Lothbrok." Yeah, going for that Viking style here. It is the natural progression, I think, of the early middle age white Swedish guy to develop Viking looks. I have to try it at least, see if it fits. We'll see how that pans out. Let's see. MSCLRHD. I haven't said your initials in a while, but MSCLRHD says, "That's neat. Kotlin does something similar for Java automatically so you can import Java code. Are you considering something similar for Yacht with C++? So I talked about that with somebody a few days ago, but I don't think any consensus was really reached. But like, it would be possible to take libclang and use that to build like a more competent C++ parser and interop layer or whatever into the Yacht compiler. But I don't know if that's something that we want to do. I guess, I mean, ultimately, if Yacht works out and it turns into a great language, which I'm hoping it will, then the C++ interoperability is a stepping stone. So I don't know exactly how much to invest in that. We'll see. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's it's really up to the person prototyping this kind of thing. If somebody comes up with a prototype of some neat interop feature with C++, then of course we can consider it. But everybody has ideas, and I got lots of ideas, but until I implement them, they're just ideas. So hard to say. Anyway, Madsy Private says, "Hi Andreas, what was the thinking behind changing the function keyword in Yacht? It was too large. The function was too large, and it was irritating to see it take up so much horizontal space everywhere. It was too much to read and too much to write." And it was annoying me since like day 5 or whatever of Yacht, but I kept thinking like I'll get used to it. But as I mentioned, like a couple of days ago, I was writing Yacht for like entire days, a few days in a row, and got just fed up with it. It's too long. Let's see. Sam Atkins says, "I think I upset AutoMod enough that it's blocking everything I say now." I mean, you can see my moderation workflow here live. So if your post didn't even show up, then presumably you said something real weird, Sam. So wonder what that was. Andrew says, "Braided Viking beard when?" Well, that's an interesting question. As you know, on the SerenityOS Discord, we do have the rule that if you ask when something, then you are now responsible for it. So does that make you responsible for growing a braided Viking beard, Andrew? I don't know. We are not on Discord. I don't know if the rules apply here. I'm tempted. I would like to see you with a braided beard. Let's see. James Pulio says, "Happy birthday, Kling. I must, of course, ask what you're drinking this morning or afternoon to celebrate." I am having Twinings Earl Grey, like always, in my Santa Claus cup. I have embraced Santa Claus as my year-round cup provider. I don't know why, but at least here, the Christmas-themed cups that are available in the store are just the nicest, most ergonomic ones. So I end up with Santa cup. Sophia says, "Sounds like I'm gonna grow horns soon." We'll see. The literal definition of bruh says, "April Fool's idea. OS hacking, but clickbaited with constant memes and jump cuts and engagement farming." I mean, it's like something I would do in a video like that, but I don't know if I could bring myself to make a video like that. I don't know. I feel like I would try to do it and then I would just feel bad, because it's not something that I want to do. I wouldn't want to clickbait or engagement farm or anything like that, but at the same time, I also don't want to shit on anybody who does, because people do what they choose to do to make a living. And if somebody feels that doing that sort of thing is all right with them, then I respect that. It's just a different path than the one I'm on. So I guess my point is that, like, I would feel a bit like I'm mocking people by doing that, and that's not really something I would want to do, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. Like, I never want to mock anybody, and I think I end up doing it like unconsciously sometimes, and I don't like that, and I think of it later down the line that like, oh shit, that kind of implicitly made fun of this or that, and this or that person or whatever, and I don't feel good about that. Let's see. Linus says, at least be consistent and do public to pub too. Pull requests welcome, Linus. Andrew Castor Andrew Castor says, when my beard gets super long, it looks like I'm wearing a ferret around my neck. Not sure how to braid that. I'm going to go ahead and type braided ferret into Google. This may be the first time somebody Googles that. Yeah, I don't know. Well, these days we have AI, so I'm sure that we could get ourselves a picture of a braided ferret somehow. But Andrew, are you trying to get out of this? Because I think you can do it. I believe in you. Lofty says, I think Andrew is responsible for Andreas growing a beard, if I follow correctly. You may follow correctly, but I think I'd still like to see Andrew with a beard, with a braid beard. Hashem says, cake, yeah, cake and yak. I've been with quite a bit of free time on my hands lately. I really want to contribute to Yacht. Is that everything feels too overwhelming and big? How can a beginner get their feet wet? Fair question. So I think it is tricky because there isn't really like a big test suite with failing tests that you could dig into or something like that, because we are kind of making up the language as we go along. Of course, much of it is already made up. But I think the same thing I always say about Serenity kind of applies to Yacht as well. That the best way to get engaged is probably to try to use it and then try to write a simple program in Yacht, and I'm pretty sure you're going to run into trouble, and then you can investigate whatever you run into. That might be the best way, because you have to learn Yacht in order to work on the compiler anyway, because it's written in Yacht. So yeah, like try to write a program and see how it goes. That would be my advice. Calculated Risk Taker says, does self-hosting a language include machine code all the way back to the chain of languages it's compiled from, e.g. assembly to C to C++ to Yacht? Does it import functionality of garbage collect from C++? I'm not really sure I understand the question. So self-hosting typically just refers to a language being implemented in itself. So a compiler in a Yacht compiler written in Yacht, and that's at least my understanding of the concept. So I don't know what this garbage collection question refers to. Ooh, Nico with the appearing hippos. Thank you for the super chat. Very, very cute. Let's see. German WTB says, there are a lot of people that feel very passionately about composition over inheritance. Have you ever put this to the test in your coding? I really feel unsure about it. Maybe it's just syntax. I guess I tend to feel that there are times where composition makes sense and times where inheritance makes sense. And it seems unnecessarily limiting to me to say that like one is just objectively better than the other. And I am always very skeptical of any kind of programming advice that's like, always do A, never do B. Always prefer A over B. That seems like, I don't know, weirdly limiting. But at the same time, I also recognize that a lot of times this type of stuff is like advice for beginners so that you steer them in the generally right direction. And then once they level up from being beginners and become more intermediate to advanced, then they start to understand when it makes sense to break the rules. But like it is the case that you do typically want to send beginners out into the world with a pack of like slightly dogmatic thinking so that they go in a generally good direction, and then as they gain experience they will figure out when it makes sense to deviate from the dogma that they carry, I guess. I frequently use both composition and inheritance in my own programs, and I feel like there are just natural applications for both things. El Coco says, any Yacht videos coming? I don't have any video coming at the moment, but I'm hopefully going to record tomorrow. I have some ideas, but I don't have anything recorded. Mustafa, my liaison from Big Hot Dog, says, hello, happy birthday. Hope you've been doing better with the cold. Yes, I have. I think it's basically over. I'm able to speak, and I don't have to stop and cough, and I don't get tears in my eyes when I lose my voice. So I think I'm officially good. And just looking at these beautiful hippos here. James says, penalties for not following through on when post. Make an example out of Andrew. Ooh. What is the penalty for not following through? That's a good question. We've never really had any kind of punishment or penalty culture around Serenity. So I don't know that this is the this is the thing we need to invent it for. I kind of like the idea that there's kind of an honor system, and maybe it could work in this way that, like, if you win post and you get called out and you become responsible for the thing but you don't deliver, then the honor system sort of prevents you from when posting anymore, because you feel obliged to at least fulfill your initial when commitment, if that makes sense. So you're like, Andrew is not going to when post until he has grown a braided beard. I don't know if that makes sense. Fausto Tomasi says, programming languages are a nice type of project for developing against tests. I'm trying to get my PRs merged before diving into Yacht myself. Cool. I think you can definitely multitask different things, like, but if you feel like you want to focus on some specific PR before you dive into a new project, also understandable. I personally like to have a couple of different things going on at any given time. Alexander Stick says, how do you manage your life-work balance? Do you sometimes feel bad about working too much or too little? I felt, when I was sick, I felt really bad about not working. I felt guilty because I felt like, oh, I have all these people sponsoring me on Patreon and GitHub sponsors, and now I'm not doing anything. I'm just lying here on the couch eating lozenges and drinking tea. And I felt bad about that. Kind of like, I don't know, like I felt almost like I owed everybody an apology or something, which is stupid, because anybody gets sick. But I think it was the first time that I had this long, almost 3-week period when I did very little, and it definitely felt bad to be so unproductive. I don't really feel bad if I work too much, although there have been cases where people around me have told me that I'm working too much and that it is a bit of a nuisance that, that I'm being very active all the time. So I don't know about work-life balance. I think the thing that seems to work for me is to have a couple of things going on, not just work. I'm very excited about the things that we're working on, things I'm working on. I wake up in the morning and I'm like hyped to get to work on them, but I know that I have to drag myself away from them and I can't just sit at the computer all day. So I do have a couple of things that force me away from the computer. And I guess I would say like one important one is physical exercise. So I go to the gym and lift with my wife, and that is, I don't know, it makes a huge difference. I think there was a period when I didn't do that, and the quality of life improvement from regular physical exercise has been huge. And I think a large part of that is that it also takes me away from work and like resets the brain and gets me to focus on something else. And hey, work-life balance is confusing when you are in my position where I work full-time on something that used to be my hobby. It has been a strange transition. I can't deny that, but I feel like I've reached an interesting balance that I'm happy with at this point. Anyways, John says composition over inheritance means violating DRY. I think not necessarily. Like there are times where composition leads to less code, less repetitive code, and there are times when inheritance leads to less code. It just depends on what kind of building blocks you're working with, really. Let's see. German WTB says, one example where I feel really weird about inheritance in Serenity is label inheriting from frame. So that's the GUI label. That never struck me as particularly weird. I mean, it's a rectangular UI element that has a frame around it optionally, so it is implemented as a frame subclass. I think many other GUI libraries have labels that inherit from frame or the equivalent of frame as well. So I didn't even think much about it when implementing it. I just thought like, oh, well, label can just be frame. That's what people normally do. I don't know what the objection here is. Let's see. Ooh. Super chat's coming through. Mustafa, thank you so much. Saying, take a break, go enjoy some vegan hot dogs. All right. I can get a vegan hot dog. I was just talking about hot dogs yesterday with my wife. She said she'd never eaten a hot dog from like a street hot dog vendor. And I thought, that seems like a life experience that we should all have. So now I don't even know where to find one nowadays. So it seems like when I was growing up, there were always hot dog vendors around. And now I've never seen them. I haven't seen them in ages. So anyway, Kenneth also with the super chat. Thank you very much. Saying some pizza or candy money into the birthday weekend. So far we have vegan hot dogs, pizza, and or candy. Cool. Good diet coming up this weekend. Thank you so much for the super chats. Let's see. Andrew says, I don't think I'm going to commit to no when posts over a meme like that. Well, we'll see. Let's see. Nico says, this sponsor is in favor of you working at a long-term sustainable pace for what it's worth. Don't feel bad for being sick. Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I think it is a tricky thing to navigate. At least I find it tricky. Like this whole thing of having a network of hundreds of sponsors that support what I do, because I feel responsible to this network of sponsors, but there isn't like one person. Like when you're working at a normal job, you have like a chain of managers, and you feel some kind of responsibility to your direct manager and to the company and so on. And this more like distributed model is very confusing to me. It's like not intuitive, and I end up thinking about it sometimes about like, am I over? Do I feel like too too much responsibility towards this group of sponsors, or not enough? Or it's something that I'm always kind of wrestling with a little bit. What level of accountability I have to the whole thing. And I do hope that the people who do choose to sponsor me, that they feel that I am spending my my time and resources responsibly, and they're of course able to and free to withdraw their support if they don't think I am. So I don't know. It has been a tricky thing, but I've been doing it for quite a while now, so it's like I'm getting used to it. But it is strange, and it's funny. Every time I meet my family members, I try to explain to them these sort of the business model of what I do or how I support myself, and it is very hard to explain it to a new person who is not even into computers. It always takes a while to to lay it all out in a way that makes sense to people. Anyway, thank you for saying that, Nico. Jason L says, happy birthday. Out of curiosity, are more perf videos coming down the pipeline? Every type of video. I don't have any particular video lined up, but every type of video will definitely happen again, because the types of videos that I've been making, I enjoy all of them. Really, I guess the only ones that are the ones that I haven't had a reason to make are like the old game ports, because I ran out of old games that I like. Like I haven't seen any like source code releases or source what are they called, like reverse engineered source versions of old games. I wish that something like that would happen for some cool new classic game, and I guess it will, and then we will do some kind of port at that point. Anyway, let's see. Old Roge. I don't know how to say that. Old Roge. If that is a Swedish name, and then it's a very strange word. Old Roge says, do you program anything outside of Serenity? No, not really. Not recently, anyway. It's been a long time since I've done that. I've done like, I get source code for other things regularly. And sometimes I make tiny tweaks to things. Like I made I couldn't get Valgrind to run on my machine a week ago or something, and I had to tweak something about it. Little things like that, but I don't generally work on projects outside of Serenity other than tiny tweaks. Nico also said, we still expect high productivity when it's time for the yearly review, though. Well, sure, that's fair. And I always pull myself together for the last of the month to put out the monthly update. I think I've been doing those so consistently now that, I did the first one in end of March 2019, and I never missed a month. And of course, nowadays I usually have help from a bunch of people, which is awesome. But yeah, we never missed a month, and I don't intend to miss one. no matter what happens, I'm going to try to always put those out, because I feel like when you have such a good streak of something, you don't want to break it. And it's like the single most impactful thing for me personally that keeps me in touch with the whole project and where it's at, where it's going, what people are doing, and so on. Just that ritual of going through everything and looking at all the changes and figuring out how to demonstrate a bunch of interesting things. So I commit to continuous productivity in monthly and yearly reviews. The literal definition of bruh says, I remember you said you were excited about something. You could only disclose what it is sometime around early 2023. Yes, that was about Linus going part-time at work. So, which he has since announced. So Linus is officially working part-time at his day job, and made it his official goal to work on Serenity full-time. So he now commits, I think it is Thursdays every week, to open source and primarily Serenity and Ladybird related stuff. And that is something that I'm very excited about. It means that we have a full-time Linus 1 day a week. And Linus's personal road ahead is to try to increase that amount, I guess, to the point where it could be 5 days a week. So that was the thing I was very excited about, and I'm still excited about, and continue to get even more excited about, possibly. Let's see. Alexander says, do you expect a drop in donations because of GitHub sponsors dropping PayPal support? Yes, I do expect a drop in donations because of that. I have spoken to a bunch of people, primarily in the Anglosphere or whatever, like Americans and Brits, who say that they are not comfortable with giving their credit cards to GitHub directly, and because of that, they might be like dropping the support, which is a bit sad. But at the end of the day, it's all voluntary, of course, and I have a couple of other options, and I do have like a direct donation link with PayPal as well. So if people want to support me, they can use that. That option does exist, and I do appreciate those donations as well. Of course, it's all the same to me. I'm just really, really happy whenever somebody donates anything, whether it's a cent or 2 cents or a lot more sometimes. It's all deeply appreciated. Let's see. German WTB says, one concrete problem where I feel neither inheritance or composition helps is groupbox. I wanted to make it collapsible, but at the same time, not push all that complexity on all group boxes. Yeah, groupbox is a bit of a weird widget, I guess. Because really, it's just meant to be... Oh, my goodness. What's going on here? Why is the resolution so high? It's just meant to be kind of a category container. Wait, oh, that's not a shortcut for widget gallery anymore. Let's see, where do we have group boxes? I guess this is a group box right here, for example, has a bunch of widgets inside of it. Do we not test group box with text? Where do we have a group box with text? Here are some. Oh, look at the not the most beautiful text layout here. Yeah, this widget here is a group box. The thing that says cursor speed, and then it kind of encloses the widgets inside of it. You want to make it collapsible, but not push all the complexity on all group boxes. Making them collapsible, so you mean like having a little thing here that you can click and it sort of shrinks it down to just the text. That doesn't feel like something that would be particularly complicated to do. So I struggle to visualize where the complexity comes from. That feels like a 10-line thing at most. Maybe I am missing what the complicating factors are. Let's see. Alexander said, happy birthday. How old did you get? I am 38. 38. And I have to say, I feel better than ever. Present stomach feelings from eating too much cake notwithstanding. It is interesting how growing up is pretty awesome, because I feel like every year I get a little bit smarter, a little bit calmer, and I'm just able to do more things a lot better than I could before. And every year I care a little bit less of what about like making a fool of myself, I guess, and putting myself out here. Even something like this, like live streaming, I could not have done this 10 years ago or 5 years ago because I was too nervous and too self-conscious. And it feels like with age comes a kind of calm and self-acceptance that is really, really sweet. I really like it. Definitely recommend getting older. Up to a point, I guess. There's going to be a point where every year means something gets worse, but right now things are getting better and it's pretty neat. Ava Ryder says, what would you recommend for someone starting to get into SerenityOS, particularly for someone who's never worked on a code base bigger than 1 or 2 files? I would recommend the same thing I always recommend, which is to just fool around with the system and look for something that seems out of place or out of order, maybe something that you think could be a little bit better. And if you are very intimidated by sort of multi-file projects, we do have a lot of single file utilities, like most of our command line utilities, excluding the shell. Most command line utilities are a single file. So that might be a place to start if you feel like very intimidated by like projects with lots of files. We have a ton of command line utilities that are missing obviously useful options. So there's a lot of opportunities for things you can improve there. Let's see. RMO says, birthday. Who? Andreas, have a great day, big dude. Thank you, RMO. I had my birthday yesterday. It was a good day, but I ate too much cake, I have to admit. My wife took me to pick out a cake, and I picked this thing called a chocolate bomb, and it was ridiculous. And I ate a whole bunch of it. But yeah. It's starting to recover from it, though. I haven't eaten much today, actually. Let's see. William said, it's amazing that folks that are miles ahead of the pack still feel hard on themselves. I think everybody feels hard on themselves to some degree. I mean, I think it's important to at least question yourself. And I try to do that. Sophia said, I feel like you should see the donations more as rewards for what you've already done rather than for something you will do. It's not a commission. Yeah, I don't know really how to look at them. But it is interesting. That's an interesting perspective. Like, look at the donations as like a reward for where we got to at this point. I feel like that falls apart a little bit when people sign up for like regular donations. So maybe somebody donates $5 today, and I can totally see how that's like a reward for where we are right now. But if they commit to like $5 every month, I feel like I wouldn't feel good about continuing to take that donation if I were to stagnate or stop working on stuff. Anyway, let's see. Fred Leckie says, congrats on the Linux format article. How did that come about? So so this month, or I guess last month, technically, we are in the Linux format magazine in the UK. Oh, they published a new one. Okay, so we're not even in the latest one anymore. We are in this one. And it's not available online. I guess you can buy it as a PDF maybe, but I have a paper copy of it somewhere. And it came about by the author of the article, Michael Reed, I think his name is. He just joined our Discord server and started chatting with people. And then he asked me if we could chat about Serenity a bit in private. And he had some questions. And then we ended up doing like a little interview for the article, which was included there as well. And I think it turned out pretty good. It's a very positive article. And my absolute favorite thing about the article was that they promoted Linus's YouTube channel, which I'm going to do right now, by the way. Hashtag subscribe to Linus right now. Haven't seen any new Linus videos for a while, but I think if we all subscribe to him, then maybe he will feel inspired to put something out. But yeah, they included a shout out to Linus with a screenshot of one of his videos and everything, and that made me feel real warm and fuzzy because I really like it when people write coverage about SerenityOS and they mention other people than me. Like they talk about the community and the other people, and even like highlight other contributors. That to me, that's just the best. Let's see. Andrew said, is it fair to say that Serenity has transitioned from a wild west of innovation to a big, stuffy open source project? I don't know that I would agree with that characterization. I think there are elements of stuffiness and there are elements of Wild West. I think there's a mix of both. Some wild elements have been neutralized, I guess you could say. Like there was a time when we had no CI. Nowadays we have CI. And we recently got layout testing running for the browser. So Alexander did a great job bringing up a basic harness for layout tests for web stuff. And we were building a browser for years without layout testing. So that's definitely like a reduction in wildness, I guess. But at the same time, I think there's also a lot of wild stuff going on. Like we are building a new language on the side to see if we can use that and have a better time with that than C++. And we are building a huge system kind of in parallel, all kinds of moving parts, and with no real overarching plan or anything like that. To me, it still feels very wild compared to any job I've ever had. But I think it was necessary to reel in some of the wild and make it a little stuffier, because the way that the project ran early on, it was fine. But like when we're up to like thousands of files, and I think we passed 1 million lines of code, and we have hundreds of contributors, and it's hard to, like, at that scale, you have to stuff it up a little bit, I think, in order for things to be able to function. But I'd be curious to hear about that, like from other people, if anybody feels that some aspect has become too stuffy or some aspect is too wild. And I definitely tend to have sort of tunnel vision on individual parts of the project at any given time. Like I bounce around between different parts, but I do tunnel vision a little bit. So if maybe some aspect of the project has gotten very stuffy or very wild and I'm not even aware of it because I'm looking elsewhere at the moment, that would be interesting to hear about. Anyway, here's a super chat from KP_CFTSZ, which I don't know what that stands for, but thank you very much for the super chat. They say, happy belated birthday, and thank you for bringing us SerenityOS. Your commitment to the project and outlook on programming/life in general has been super inspiring for myself and many others. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I try to maintain a positive outlook no matter what, and I'm always glad to hear that it can be inspiring to somebody. And I've worked with people myself throughout the years who were like relentlessly positive or relentlessly optimistic. And there were times when I felt like they were cringy, or I thought that like they were kind of nerdy for not being more cynical or not like shitting on things. But as I get older and more mature, I see that the positive people and like the optimists, they were right. They were so happy always, and I wasn't. And I just thought it was cooler to be negative than to be positive. But that was stupid, I was having a bad time and they were having a good time, and I should have listened to them earlier. Let's see. Where was I? German WTB says, with the dynamic layout system seemingly working fine, I have wondered if there is even a place for fixed sizes still. So I think there are a handful of things where you might want to have fixed sizes. Like an example would be something like this thing here, which is kind of I guess a preview of the wallpaper or the desktop background, and it's a bitmap, and the bitmap has a fixed size, and I think you probably want to be able to communicate that to the layout system somehow. But most things you probably don't want that. And maybe this thing shouldn't be a bitmap. I don't know. But one thing that we are missing in our layout system, which I was thinking about the other day, is that it would be cool to have sort of like a CSS EM unit, which is relative to the current font size rather than pixels. So it would be sweet if like you increase the default font size here and the UI elements would grow because they would be in sizes relative to the font size rather than pixels. Maybe that's what you are actually referencing, but that's just the first thing I thought about. We don't have a way to express font size relative sizes, and that would be cool. KPCFTSZ are saying, are vector fonts becoming the default? Not at this present moment. They are just, I just had my VM set up that way. Noah says, hi Andreas, I've been a viewer for a few years now, and I love the system you have built. Thank you, Noah, for saying that. I appreciate it. So much positivity. Aditya says, happy birthday, Andreas. Thank you. Stepan said, such peer pressure to Linus. Yes, but I'm sorry about that, Linus. I don't mean to peer pressure you. Maybe a little bit. I feel like I'm always doing it, and hopefully he doesn't take it too badly. Asher with the super chat saying, love your work. Thank you, Asher. Wow. So many super chats today. I think this might be the most we've ever had. Very, very cool. Really appreciate them all. And this one doesn't even say which currency. It's just 40. That's cool. Thank you for the 40, Asher. Let's see. German WTB also said, do you ever feel like not wanting to add features to a certain part of the system because you would rather redesign it from the ground up? No. I used to feel that way, but I almost started to feel like that's kind of a young man's game, like this feeling like, oh, we should just rewrite it from scratch. And I'm much more positive towards incremental refactoring and like incremental rewrite. I think incremental rewrites, you can structure them in such a way that you end up with probably even a better result than you would the from scratch rewrite. And I really started learning about incremental rewrites when I worked on WebKit, because in WebKit, whenever you wanted to do any kind of architectural, like big architectural change, you couldn't just rewrite WebKit. There were hundreds, almost maybe thousands of people working on it. And it wasn't really feasible to do a rewrite. So you had to do like these big incremental rewrites if you wanted to change something big. And it was a really valuable experience getting to do big incremental rewrites of complex software together with other people. And it's something that I always carry with me. And maybe sometimes I still feel that initial urge when I look at something and I think like, oh, I should just do this thing over. Like recently, for example, I looked at our some of our font code and I thought like, oh, this is like written in kind of a clumsy way, and I should just start over and do a better font loader. But at the same time, there's a lot of valuable, perfectly working, perfectly fine code in there, and throwing it all away just so I can have the sort of the gratification of a rewrite, it doesn't seem right, if that makes sense. Let's see. Jared Teaches says, what programming channels / influencers do you enjoy? I enjoy various programming channels. Like, I've mentioned before many times, I really like JT's programming channel. Obviously, I'm biased because JT works on Yacht as well. But I think it's a cool channel, and JT has like a comfy workflow. I like Tim Morgan's channel, who works on the Natalie Ruby implementation. And I'm a big fan of JCS, who programs old Mac computers sometimes on jcs.org. And when it comes to influencers, I don't enjoy any programming influencers, to be honest. I just kind of mute them on Twitter and other places so I don't have to see them, because I don't know. I don't get any value from influencer type people. And that's no offense to anybody who's doing that. It's just that I feel like they take up a lot of space, and I don't get anything out of the things that they post. Let's see. Ooh, Randy Tang with the super chat saying red envelope. Oh, that's an emoji, red envelope. I don't think I've ever seen that one. Saying, happy cake day. When are you publishing your autobiography, or at least a Yacht for Dummies? Yeah, that's a fair question. I don't know about Yacht for Dummies. I think we would need to at least make the language provably useful, or like we have to prove to ourselves that the language is useful. And my mental model around that keeps shifting around, but I think the thing that would prove to me that it's useful is that we can write. I think right now my thinking is that once we have like a significant chunk of the browser engine written in Yacht, and we have like a GUI application written in Yacht in Serenity, then I would feel like, yeah, okay, this is like a real thing that we can actually use. But that keeps shifting around. But I think it would have to get to that point before I try to even like make any kind of teaching material. But that is something that's kind of interesting to do. Like, how do you do something like that? Because I don't know that it's something that I would want to work on personally, but I know a lot of people find it fun to do that kind of stuff. But the language is still changing a bunch, so it's a little too early. As for my autobiography, I have no idea. I don't know if I would make one. Maybe I would make one as a YouTube video where I just talk for 8 hours about everything that happened. But in a sense, I guess this YouTube channel is like the closest thing to an autobiography that I have. I have to think about that. I should write more. That's definitely something I was thinking lately, that every time I write something, it usually does pretty well and people like reading it. But maybe that is because I do it so rarely that I only write when I have something actually interesting to say. And if I started doing it more, it would get like a little bit thinned out and diluted. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for the super chat, Randy. Mustafa said, it's kind of surprising how much more modern a nice vector font makes the system seem, in my opinion, at least. Yeah, I do think that vector font, for me, like the real awesome thing about using a vector font is that we can use a bit bigger text. It has been a pain point for a long time that the text is a little too small for resolutions like 1080p, right, and higher. And just seeing the system with a slightly larger font, to me, feels really fun and kind of breathes life into it in a way. And we still need to make the text look better. It's kind of a little bit smudgy, I feel like. And I don't know exactly what the strategy is to improve it, but you can easily do like pixel comparison to like the text that you would see in Chromium or Firefox and different operating systems like Mac and Windows, and compare and contrast and figure out what we need to do to get the best possible rendering. It's an interesting area, but not something I've looked at much myself. If anybody's interested in making our text more beautiful, I would love to help that person in any way that I can. Paul's Magic Videos said, this is a very cool and inspiring project. I was wondering how close it is to being able to run on bare metal. Is it a case of just writing drivers for the hardware you want to run on? Right, that is basically the issue. So it already runs on bare metal, but only very specific bare metal. I've had it running on my computer here. Other people have had it running on their computers, some of them desktop computers, some of them laptops. But it usually involves a fair amount of fiddling around and fixing little kernel issues as you go. It's definitely not user-friendly and straightforward at this point. And we don't have a ton of people dedicating themselves to improving bare metal support because it's a large project, has a lot of parts, and 90% of them you can work on in QEMU in a virtualized environment, and you don't have to worry about the instability of a bare metal environment. So most people don't even deal with that. But if you're interested in poking around with bare metal support, there is a bare metal channel on our Discord server where you can join and find the other people who are doing the same thing. Let's see. The Makes says, is your name unusual? Is your name usual in Sweden? I expect something like Klingson or some special characters over some letters, etc. My name is not the most common, but there are other Klings. Although a lot of people think I'm German because Andreas Kling is apparently also a pretty German sounding name. And I semi-irregularly get emails in German from people who assume that I'm German, which is kind of funny. Somebody invited me to a German podcast the other day. They wrote me this invitation in German. And I just had to say, no, I'm not German. Sorry. So it's not the super commonest name in Sweden, but there are some others with my name. Actually, maybe we can even find some others. In Sweden, we have an amazing service called birthday.se, where you can look up everybody's birthday. So I would just punch in Andreas Kling. And no. And then I can find a bunch of Andreas Klings here in the country and when their birthday is and where they live and stuff like that. It's a, it's a pretty strange country when it comes to information availability compared to other countries. There are 20 people found by this search, so I guess it is pretty rare. But there might be some people who are living in secret somewhere. Anyway, let's see. Beeman says, well, hello, friends. Just missed today's stream, but happy to have caught the tail. Love the Serenity wallpaper. Thank you. And German WTB said, there's basically already a way to get the buttons resizing with the font by implementing calculated min preferred size, but it does come with weird resulting layout sometimes. Right, but I think ideally it would be something totally automatic so that if you are working on like a GML file, for example, you wouldn't put here like a fixed height like this, 56, or maybe you could even put units, right? And then you could say, oh, 1.2 EM or whatever instead. So you wouldn't need to do anything. You wouldn't need to override anything or implement any kind of C++, but you could just assign these types of sizes. That would be, I think that could be really cool. Anyway, let's see. Mustafa says, if you all don't call yourself the Kling Clan, then I'm a little disappointed. Victor Panisa said, do you have a suggestion of any other IDE than C-Line for Serenity development? I think a bunch of people are using VS Code. Many people use Vim. And if you chat with the people on Discord, you can usually find people using your editor, and any sophisticated IDE should be able to get up to speed. I know there are people using QCreator. I used to use that myself. So I think the three big ones are C-Line, QCreator, and VS Code, and it should be possible to get them all working. But inquire on the Discord server to find other like-minded folks. It is 5:10 almost, and I gotta duck out. So we are going to close up the stream, but thank you all so much for coming and for all the super chat. Oh my goodness. And for all the questions and comments, all the birthday wishes. I really appreciate those. And I'm starting to feel like I could maybe eat again. That would be nice. I hope everybody's going to have a great weekend. And if you end up working on some programming stuff related to Serenity, then come hang out with us on Discord. It is always nicer to do programming together. So come do it with us. All right. I will see you all next time. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye.